Hi folks, my name is Chef Gregorio Fierro. I'm a professional chef. I have been for 23 years. I work as a brand ambassador for numerous food equipment companies in the United States. We do a lot of startup consultancies, and every dollar has to count. So we're looking at two machines today. These are both medium duty deli slicers designed for roughly 3 hours a day of use. This is a Globe GC12 and this is an Expectro SLE12, both belt driven machines. This is a 1/3 horsepower motor. This is a 1/2 horsepower motor. We're gonna put them through their paces and see if the Globe is actually worth the extra money that you're spending over the Expectro. So at face value, looking at these machines, I'd say they're both pretty sturdy, clearly commercially designed machines. I like the edges here on the Expectro a little bit better. They're a little smoother, especially considering it's a new machine. The blade is the same size. The horsepower is greater on the Expectro, which if you could have extra horsepower in these machines, you always want it. Even though they're medium use machines, the 1/3 of a horsepower to me seems a little smaller. This is generally just a slightly bigger machine, a little bit more robust looking, but I can't really say that either of them look that they're not prepared for the job that they're doing. I like the on-off switch on the Expectro. Reminds me more of the European switches they put on like Bezerbas. This has more of an antiquated on-off switch, but that's not really a deal breaker. The slice control knobs are about the same. I'm getting the same level of control out of both of them. I'd say from an aesthetic, all in all, they're pretty similar machines. I give the slight edge to the Expectro because it's a bit beefier and because of the extra horsepower. So we're getting ready to do the slicing demo, and I came upon something a little interesting. This is a full piece of Boar's Head Genoa salami, and I want to thank the people at Boar's Head for giving us the samples for the slicing demo today. The Boar's Head piece of Genoa that's new fits perfectly in the Expectro. When I go to put it in the Globe, the pusher won't reach. So you're gonna have a little bit more versatility with this gravity tray than you're going to have with this one, not only in cutting angle, but also in the size of the cold cuts that you could cut in here successfully. I mean, that's a bit of a problem. You could certainly use your hand, but keep in mind that you really want to keep your hands, especially with younger people who aren't experienced at a deli slicer. You really don't want your hand on the product if you could at all avoid it. The Globe is not only void of the handle, which keeps your hand completely away from the cutting tray, but with this application, I'm forced to keep my hand on the meat and run my hand near the slicing blade as I'm slicing, which is definitely not ideal. So we got the Globe on right now. It's a pretty quiet machine, pulsing a little, but not anything that you would notice in a restaurant or a noisy deli. The pusher is a little beefier than the one on the Expectro, but in this moment in time, we're not even able to use it because it doesn't go back far enough. So the slicing, pretty easy. I wish the carriage were a bit smoother. And I'm also not terribly happy with the evenness of the cut, especially at the thinner settings. I'm having a hard time getting a really perfectly even slice, which I'm not real happy about, especially considering how expensive this machine is. Now, maybe we could tinker with it and calibrate it, but I want to treat these machines fairly, and I didn't tinker or calibrate with either of them, so I'm just using them at face value. It's good, it's not great. I wish the carriage were a little smoother. I wish the cut were a little more even. The pusher's definitely a little beefier. The carriage might be a touch beefier, but the carriage itself is about the same, except for the fact that this is dragging a bit. So now we're gonna do a little slicing with the Expectro, the same piece of meat. I'm gonna try and go for the same thickness. I have to say right off the bat, this is a little quieter. Carriage is much smoother. Even though this is a little lighter by weight, it's giving me, the carriage movement is so smooth that I'm not having a problem using it at all. And the slicing is definitely more uniform. I'm gonna bring it even thinner to see if I can really bring out what this slicer's doing. If you look at these slices, you look at the level of opacity, you could see that they're pretty even slices. I'm really happy with the way this cuts. I'd say cutting wise, I have to give the edge of the Expectro. Okay, so now we switched meat products. We went from a Genoa salami to a ham product, which is a bit wetter. And this is certainly a little more challenging to cut than the Genoa is. We're getting nice even slices. Again, the carriage is really smooth. And those are nice even slices. And the ham being a higher water product is going to have a tendency to shred a little bit more in the slicer. But despite that, we still got nice, clean, even cuts. Machine's very smooth. I mean, you can see the whole round of that ham slice perfectly. Very good slice. If we move over here, let's see what happens. Move over to the globe. Now that we know it's boar's head, I'm going to leave that plastic thing off. It's a little easier without it. Get this justified on the slicer. It's breaking it up a little bit, but it's doing a decent job. I'm going to try and go a little bit thicker. See if I can get a little bit of a better cut. And it's still breaking the ends of the slices. I'm not really sure why. Look at that. Very frustrating. A little better. I mean, all in all, I have to say that just from a pure performance standpoint, I have to say the Expectro is doing a better job slicing. This is a slightly wetter product. It's not quite as uniform as the Genoa, but if you see, look, it left on every cut. If I look at the ham itself, it'll probably have a little tag end on it. Yeah, it's leaving a little tag end. Let's see if I can get it off with this. After a couple of slices to justify, I'm back to getting uniform cuts again. It's the full slice. I mean, it'd be hard for me to sit here and tell you that the Globe is doing as good a job as the Expectro as far as the visual aesthetic of the slices coming off the slicer. It's definitely giving me a cleaner, more uniform cut than this is. Frankly, I'm a little surprised because the price difference, this should really be doing better. So to wrap up this head-to-head comparison, I have to say that both the machines are more than adequate to do their jobs. Frankly, I came in expecting the Globe to really outshine over the Expectro based mainly on the cost. But I have to say that it's at least as good as, or perhaps a little better than the Globe, which really kind of surprised me. And keeping that into consideration, and keeping into consideration that in the restaurant business, we're fighting for every dollar. If you can get a machine that's half the amount of money that's going to do as good a job, or in some cases a little better, I mean, I think you have to lean on the less expensive machine. You'd have to go with the Expectro.